The bright stars of the galaxy twinkled across the night sky, a silent reminder of the vastness of space. Yet, in a far-off corner of the universe, something unexpected was happening. In the central chambers of the Galactic Council, a decision was being made that would change the course of history. The Galactic Council, a group of representatives from hundreds of different species, had never been known for making hasty decisions. Their rulings were always well thought out, deliberate, and backed by centuries of experience. But today, their decision was anything but ordinary. The holographic projection in front of the council members flashed with words that sent a chill through the room. Humans are hereby permanently banned from participating in galactic wars. Across the room, the representatives of various alien species exchanged confused glances. Some gasped in shock. Others seemed surprised, but not entirely confused. The news had come quickly, with no explanation given in the official statement. It had been an emergency ruling, one that even the most seasoned council members had not expected. For centuries, humans had been part of the Galactic Council, trading with alien civilizations and contributing to intergalactic peace. But this decision was a complete reversal. Why had humanity suddenly been banned from wars? The reason was a mystery to everyone present, and the only thing certain was that this was a monumental moment. News of the ban spread quickly throughout the galaxy, broadcasts filled with speculation, opinions, and outrage. Some saw it as a punishment, others as a sign of fear. Many alien races, particularly the peaceful ones, had long believed that humans were a threat to galactic peace. Their reputation for being unpredictable, stubborn, and fiercely independent had earned them a kind of quiet respect. But now, this decision to ban them from war raised new questions. What had they done? What could possibly have led to such a drastic move? Kesh Varuan, an ambitious journalist from the planet Varna, was not one to shy away from a mystery. She had covered many galactic stories in her career, but nothing like this. This was different. This was bigger. The truth behind humanity's banishment could shake the galaxy to its core. Determined to find out what had really happened, Kesh set out on a journey to uncover the secrets the Galactic Council was keeping hidden. Her first stop was the Galactic Archives, the largest collection of interstellar records in the galaxy. There, she would search for any mention of humans in galactic wars. She knew the Council had always been tight-lipped about the human involvement in conflicts, but now, with the ban in place, Kesh hoped she could find something, anything, that would explain the shocking decision. As she walked through the towering halls of the archives, Kesh felt a sense of anticipation. The walls were lined with endless rows of data terminals, each filled with information from across the galaxy. The air was cool, and the faint hum of machinery filled the silence. Kesh approached one of the terminals and activated it, her fingers flying over the controls as she searched for human records. She typed in keywords like human conflict, war, and Galactic Council intervention. Hours passed as she sifted through the records, but there was nothing that gave her a clear answer. It was as though the humans had been erased from the history of galactic warfare. This was no accident. Then, a file appeared that caught her eye. It was labeled, "The Drask Invasion of Earth." Kesh's heart skipped a beat. The Drask were a race known for their ruthless invasions of peaceful worlds. They had attacked Earth hundreds of years ago, but the records were scarce. Kesh had always been curious about that war, but the Council had sealed most of the information. She opened the file, and what she found stunned her. The Drask had invaded Earth with their full military force, expecting an easy victory. After all, Earth was a relatively primitive planet by galactic standards. Their technology was nowhere near as advanced as that of the Drask. But what followed was something that no one had expected. Despite being outgunned and outnumbered, the humans had put up a fight. A fierce fight. What began as a series of small skirmishes quickly escalated into a brutal full-scale war. The Drask could not believe it. They thought that with their superior firepower, Earth would fall in weeks, maybe even days. But the humans kept fighting. And then, something extraordinary happened. The humans began to adapt. They learned from every battle. They found new ways to use their limited resources in ways the Drask had never anticipated. They were quick to innovate, developing new strategies, weapons, and tactics that the Drask were not prepared for. The war that was supposed to be a simple conquest turned into a brutal standoff, and the Drask began to fear the humans. As Kesh read through the details of the invasion, one thing became clear. The Drask had underestimated the humans, but more than that, they had failed to realize the true power of humanity. Their will to never give up. No matter how many losses they suffered, humans never backed down. Kesh's mind raced as she tried to piece together the information. The humans had won the war, but at a great cost. They had wiped out most of the Drask forces, and in doing so, they had gained a reputation across the galaxy as a people who would never surrender, no matter the odds. It was this reputation that made the Galactic Council fearful of humans. They had become too unpredictable, too powerful, and most of all, too unstoppable. Kesh knew she was only scratching the surface of a much larger story. What she had uncovered so far was only the beginning. But one thing was certain. The ban on humanity was no accident. The galaxy was afraid of what humans might become. As she left the archives, the weight of what she had just learned settled on her shoulders. The truth was out there, and Kesh was determined to find it, no matter what. To understand why humans had been banned from galactic war, she would have to dig deeper. But in her heart, she already knew that the answers she sought would reveal something far bigger than anyone could imagine. Kesh Varun sat in her small, dimly lit room aboard her ship, staring at the flickering holographic images of the records she had gathered. The truth about humanity's unexpected rise during the Drask invasion had sent shockwaves through her mind. But it wasn't enough. There had to be more to this story. There had to be a reason why the Galactic Council had taken such drastic action against humanity. The more Kesh read, the more she realized the Council's fear of humans went deeper than anyone could imagine. Her mind kept returning to the same question. What was it about humans that had caused the Council to ban them from all future wars? Determined to find answers, Kesh set her course for the last place she needed to go, the Drask homeworld, a dangerous planet known for its harsh landscapes and fierce inhabitants. After all, they had once been the enemy of humanity. If there was anyone who could shed light on the truth behind the humans' shocking victory, it would be the Drask themselves. Kesh had already spoken to Vorak, a retired Drask general, but he had been reluctant to share much. But Kesh knew he held the key to understanding the true nature of the war and the truth behind the Council's decision. The journey to the Drask homeworld was long and treacherous, taking several days as Kesh's ship crossed vast stretches of space. As she traveled, she reflected on everything she had learned. The Drask had come to Earth with full confidence that they would conquer it quickly. They had underestimated the humans, who, against all odds, fought back. But there had to be more. Why did the Drask not simply crush humanity when they had the chance? Why did they retreat in the end, despite being the superior force? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kesh's ship arrived at the Drask homeworld. The planet was a rugged, rocky place with deep, jagged mountains and windswept plains. The air was thick with the smell of sulfur, and dark clouds perpetually hung low in the sky. It was a world that seemed as harsh as its inhabitants. Kesh made her way to the city where Vorak had retired. The city was a maze of towering structures, built from the hard stone of the planet's surface. The streets were crowded with Drask citizens going about their daily lives, their faces grim and serious. The Drask were known for their stoic demeanor, and Kesh had no doubt that their pride had taken a hit after the war with Earth. When Kesh arrived at Vorak's home, he greeted her with a nod but said little. He had been quiet ever since their last meeting, but Kesh knew that he had more to say. She just had to convince him to speak. Vorak, Kesh said, sitting across from him, I need to understand. The Drask were powerful. You were powerful. You had the entire galaxy at your feet, but when it came to Earth, something changed. What happened? Why couldn't you defeat the humans? Vorak's eyes narrowed as he stared at her. He took a long breath, clearly wrestling with something deep inside. Kesh waited patiently, knowing that whatever he was about to reveal would be crucial. Humans, Vorak began slowly, his voice heavy with regret, are not like other species. I've fought in countless wars, seen the rise and fall of many civilizations, but nothing prepared me for them. When the Drask first set foot on Earth, we thought it would be simple. We would conquer them as we had done with others. But we underestimated them. We underestimated the one thing that made them different. Kesh leaned in, her curiosity piqued. What was that? Vorak's voice dropped to a whisper, as though he feared the walls might hear him. Their spirit. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. You see, the Drask are a warrior race. We fight to win, to dominate. But humans, they fight because they have something inside them that refuses to die. Their resolve. Their willpower. It's something no other species can match. And it scared us. Kesh could hardly believe what she was hearing. The humans had won not with superior weapons or advanced technology, but with something far more powerful, their unbreakable spirit. We lost, Vorak continued, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and frustration. We were supposed to crush them, but instead they made us fight for every inch of ground. They adapted faster than we could keep up. They didn't run when they were beaten. They didn't surrender. They came back, again and again, until, eventually, the Drask were the ones on the run. Kesh's mind raced as she tried to comprehend this revelation. But why? Why didn't you just wipe them out when you had the chance? Why let it go on? Vorak looked away, as though the answer was a bitter memory. We tried. We destroyed cities. We wiped out their armies. But it didn't matter. Every time we thought we had broken them, they rebuilt. Every time we thought we had won, they fought back with even more fury. We realized that the longer we fought, the more dangerous they became. The Drask, we became afraid. Kesh was stunned. Afraid? You feared them. Vorak nodded gravely. Yes, humans became something we couldn't control, something unpredictable, something unstoppable. And that is why the Council made its decision. Kesh sat back, her mind struggling to process what she had just heard. The Drask had feared humanity's power, their relentless determination. The galaxy's decision to ban humans from war wasn't because of some crime they had committed. It was because humanity had proven that they could never be controlled, that in time they could surpass even the most advanced civilizations. Kesh understood now. The Council feared what humanity could become, and they were determined to stop it, before it was too late. But Kesh wasn't done yet. She needed to know more, and she would stop at nothing to uncover the truth. Kesh's mind was racing. The revelation that the Drask feared humanity's spirit was a turning point. But there was still so much she didn't understand. The Council had banned humans from all future conflicts, but why did they go so far? Why were they willing to suppress a species that had proven itself to be such a force of nature? Kesh couldn't stop asking herself these questions as she left Vorak's home and returned to her ship. As the engines of her vessel hummed to life, Kesh sat down in the cockpit, staring out at the vast expanse of space. The stars glittered before her, each one a reminder of how much was yet to be uncovered. She had learned a great deal about the Drask, but the truth behind the Council's actions was still elusive. There was one place she hadn't yet explored, the Galactic Archive, a place where all the secrets of the galaxy were stored. It was heavily guarded and restricted, but Kesh knew she had no other choice if she wanted the answers. The journey to the Galactic Archive would take several days, and during that time, Kesh spent every moment thinking. She replayed her conversation with Vorak over and over, trying to piece together the larger picture. The Drask's fear of humanity's unyielding spirit made sense, But Kesh still didn't understand why the Council had felt the need to intervene so drastically. Surely there had to be more to the story. The Galactic Archive was located on a remote station, orbiting a planet far beyond the reaches of the main galactic lanes. It was said that only those with the highest clearance could access its vaults. But Kesh had a plan. She wasn't going to let anything stand in her way. As Kesh's ship approached the station, she prepared herself for what was to come. The station was a massive structure, gleaming with white metal that reflected the light of nearby stars. It looked serene from a distance, but Kesh knew that the deeper she went into the station, the more dangerous things could become. She docked her ship and stepped out into the sterile, quiet halls of the station. The air was cold, and the walls seemed to hum with the energy of the countless data streams that ran through them. Kesh's steps echoed as she walked, each one bringing her closer to the heart of the archive. The security was tight, but Kesh had planned for this. Using her knowledge of the station's layout, she slipped past guards and deactivated security systems. It wasn't long before she reached the central hub, where all the most sensitive records were kept. As she approached the vault door, her pulse quickened. She knew that what she was about to uncover could change everything. Inside the vault, rows upon rows of data crystals and holographic records were stored, each one holding the key to the galaxy's history. Kesh's eyes scanned the shelves, looking for anything related to humanity's banishment from war. Then she found it, a single data crystal glowing softly with a blue light. She pulled it from the shelf and connected it to her device, her fingers trembling as the holographic images flickered to life before her. What she saw stunned her. The records were ancient, predating the current Galactic Council by centuries. They told a story of a time long ago when a race of ancient beings, known only as the Elder Council, had created a set of rules that governed the galaxy. These rules were meant to prevent war and ensure peace, but there was one rule above all others. No species would be allowed to wage war without the approval of the Elder Council. But there was a twist. As the records revealed, the Elder Council had foreseen the rise of a species with the potential to disrupt the balance of power in the galaxy. This species would be strong, resourceful, and unyielding in the face of adversity. And while the Elder Council had taken measures to prevent their growth, they had failed. The species had been humanity. Kesh's heart pounded as she read further. The Elder Council had known that humanity's spirit would become a threat. The records detailed how, despite all efforts to control them, humans continued to grow stronger. Their relentless nature, their refusal to give up, made them an unstoppable force. The Elder Council had feared that if humanity were allowed to continue expanding, they would one day become so powerful that no one would be able to stop them. And so, the Council had made a decision. They could not allow humanity to wage war, not because of any crimes they had committed, but because they were simply too dangerous to be left unchecked. The decision to ban humans from all future wars was not out of malice, but out of fear. A fear that humanity would one day become a force so powerful that the balance of the galaxy would be shattered. Kesh felt the weight of what she had discovered. This wasn't just about humans winning one battle against the Drask. It was about something far bigger. The Council's banishment wasn't a punishment. It was a desperate measure to prevent a future where humanity might rise up and conquer the galaxy. They had recognized that humans were the greatest threat to the established order. Kesh's mind spun with the implications. What would the galaxy look like if humanity was allowed to wage war? Would they conquer everything in their path? Would they be the ones to challenge the status quo? And if so, what would that mean for the future? As Kesh returned to her ship, her thoughts were consumed by what she had learned. The truth was far more complex than she had ever imagined. Humanity wasn't just another species to be controlled. They were a force that could not be ignored, and the galaxy had chosen to keep them in check, out of fear. But Kesh couldn't help but wonder, was the Council's fear justified, or were they making a mistake by keeping humanity sidelined? There was only one way to find out. Kesh's mind was in turmoil as she left the Galactic Archive behind. The truth she had uncovered was not what she had expected. Humanity's spirit, their unyielding will to survive, had made them a threat so powerful that the galaxy's leaders had been forced to ban them from war. But now, Kesh was left with more questions than answers. What was she supposed to do with this information? The Council feared humanity, but was it justified? As Kesh's ship moved through the silent expanse of space, she reflected on her own journey. She had always been a curious explorer, someone who sought out the truth no matter the cost. But now she found herself at a crossroads. The more she learned, the more she realized that there were two sides to every story. The Council had made their decision, but was it the right one? It was then that a message came through her communication system, a distress call. It was a small ship, a civilian vessel, in need of immediate assistance. Without hesitation, Kesh set her course for the source of the distress signal. When she arrived, she found a ship damaged and drifting in space. Its hull was scarred from what appeared to be a series of small battles. Kesh docked her ship to the damaged vessel and made her way inside. The air was thick with tension, and there was a strange feeling of urgency in the atmosphere. As she entered the control room, she found a small group of survivors, humans. They looked exhausted, their faces pale and filled with fear. One of them, a young man, looked up at Kesh with wide eyes. He seemed surprised to see a Drask standing before him. But Kesh quickly reassured him. "I'm here to help," she said, her voice calm. "What happened?" The man's eyes flickered with confusion before he finally spoke. "We were attacked by the Zorians. They came out of nowhere, and we didn't stand a chance. We're just a small ship. We're not military." Kesh frowned. The Zorians were a powerful military force, one of the many species that had always been a part of the galactic power structure. For them to attack a civilian vessel like this was unusual. She looked around at the other humans, who seemed to be in varying stages of panic. One woman was holding her child close, her eyes filled with fear. "Don't worry," Kesh said, trying to calm them. "I'll get you to safety." But as she worked to stabilize the ship's systems, Kesh couldn't help but notice the way the humans looked at her. There was fear in their eyes, but also a quiet understanding. They knew who she was, a Drask, and they had no reason to trust her. Yet, something in their expressions made her feel as though she wasn't their enemy. She was just someone offering help. When the ship was finally on course toward a nearby neutral station, Kesh sat with the humans in the small mess hall. They introduced themselves one by one. Captain Leela, who led the group, her son, Thorn, a young engineer named Tessa, and several others. Kesh listened as they spoke of their travels and the peaceful life they had once known before being dragged into the conflict. "We never wanted to be part of any war," Captain Leela explained. "We just wanted to live in peace. But the Zorians attacked us anyway. And they're not the only ones. We've been caught in the middle of something we don't understand." Kesh couldn't help but sympathize. The humans had been pulled into a war they never asked for, and now they were stranded and vulnerable. But there was something else in their words, something Kesh had heard before. "We're just doing our best to survive," Tessa said, her voice tired but strong. "But it's not easy. Every day, we face the consequences of the wars fought by people far away from us. We have no say in the matters that affect our lives." Kesh's heart sank. The humans didn't want to be part of the galaxy's conflicts, but their very existence had made them a target. They had been thrust into a system that didn't care about their lives, their families, or their future. It was the same system that the Galactic Council had created to maintain order and peace. But peace for whom? Not for the humans, Kesh realized. The conversation lingered in her mind long after it had ended. She had learned something important today. The humans had not chosen this path. They had been forced into it by forces beyond their control. And now, they were paying the price. Kesh could no longer ignore the reality of what she had uncovered. As her ship docked at the neutral station, Kesh found herself torn between two worlds. The humans had been banned from war because of their potential to disrupt the galaxy's balance. But in doing so, the Council had condemned them to a life of fear and survival. They had been caught in the crossfire of a larger conflict, and their only crime had been their spirit, the very thing that made them dangerous. Kesh stood at the station's docking bay, her thoughts clouded with uncertainty. She had always followed the rules, adhered to the order that the Galactic Council had set. But now, she found herself questioning that very order. Was it fair? Was it just? Or had the Council made a grave mistake by choosing to suppress humanity? The more she thought about it, the more Kesh realized that the galaxy's fate might rest on the answer to those questions. She could no longer stand by and watch as humanity suffered. The truth was clear. Humanity wasn't a threat. It was a victim of a system that had gone too far. But what could she do? She was just one person, a rebel who had broken away from the Council's laws. Yet, as she looked at the humans around her, she knew that she couldn't turn back. Kesh had made her choice. She would stand with them. The path ahead was unclear, but Kesh was no longer afraid. The galaxy's future depended on the choices made today, and Kesh would do everything in her power to make sure humanity had a place in it. Kesh's resolve was firm as she stood on the bridge of her ship, staring at the distant stars. The choice had been made, and there was no turning back now. She had seen the truth, and now she had to act on it. The humanity she had met, the civilians she had saved, had done nothing to deserve the treatment they received. They weren't a threat, and the rest of the galaxy needed to realize that. Her ship, the Orion's Wing, was now a symbol of the rebellion Kesh had started. She was no longer just a member of the Galactic Council. She had broken away from their rules and laws, and she had found others willing to do the same. The human refugees she had saved were now allies in a cause greater than their own survival. They were part of a movement to give humanity a voice in the galaxy, a voice that had long been silenced by the powerful empires that ruled the stars. Kesh had been reaching out to others. She had sent messages to groups across the galaxy, warning them of the injustice humanity faced. Some responded with open arms, others with fear. The fear of the Council's wrath was not something to take lightly, but Kesh had seen firsthand what humanity was capable of. They were resourceful, resilient, and united in ways the galaxy had never known. One of her first contacts had been an independent ship captain named Kale, a seasoned veteran who had fought in many skirmishes across the galaxy. Kale had heard the rumors of the Council's decision to ban humanity from war, and when he had met Kesh and heard her story, he agreed to help. He had his own reasons for standing against the system, reasons that Kesh was only beginning to understand. But Kale wasn't the only one. There were others too. People who had suffered under the rule of the Council. People who had seen the cracks in the system and were willing to do something about it. The Orion's Wing now flew under a new banner, a banner of rebellion. It was a small force, but it was growing. They had made their first move by freeing more human prisoners and rescuing stranded ships. Each victory, no matter how small, brought more allies to their cause. But Kesh knew that this was just the beginning. The real battle would be against the Galactic Council, the rulers of the galaxy who believed they had the right to control everything. "We're ready," Kale said, standing beside her on the bridge. His voice was steady, but there was a fire in his eyes. He had seen the horrors of war, but he believed in the cause. He believed in humanity's right to stand on equal footing with the rest of the galaxy. Kesh nodded. "We're not just fighting for humanity anymore. We're fighting for everyone who's been oppressed. For the ones who have been silenced. We're showing the galaxy that the Council doesn't control us." Cal's eyes flickered with understanding. He had lived through the brutal realities of the galaxy's power struggles. He knew what it was like to fight against overwhelming odds. But there was something different about this fight. This wasn't just about military might or strategic alliances. It was about standing up for what was right. And Kesh had a feeling that together, they could make a difference. The mission ahead was dangerous. They had learned of a high-level meeting planned by the Council, a meeting that would decide the fate of humanity and its future in the galaxy. If they could infiltrate it, they would have the opportunity to broadcast the truth to the entire galaxy. The Council's plans would be exposed, and humanity's side of the story would finally be heard. But it wasn't going to be easy. The Council was powerful, and their security was nearly impenetrable. Yet, Kesh wasn't worried. She had Kale and his crew, and she had the humans who had joined her cause. Together, they would find a way. Kesh stood in front of the control panel, her fingers hovering over the keys. She had never felt such determination. The decision she had made, to break away from the Council and fight for what was right, had come with its risks. But as she looked at the faces of those standing beside her, human and alien alike, she knew they were ready. "We do this now," Kesh said, her voice steady, filled with purpose. Kale grinned. "Let's show them what happens when you try to control humanity." With a deep breath, Kesh sent the order. The Orion's wing jumped to light speed, its engines humming with purpose. They were heading straight for the Council's meeting station, a heavily guarded outpost at the edge of the galaxy. The next few hours would be critical, but Kesh was ready. In the back of her mind, she could hear the words that had been haunting her since she first uncovered the truth. The galaxy's rulers feared humanity. They feared what humans could do when united. But the truth was, humanity didn't need to conquer the stars. They only needed to be free, and Kesh would fight to make sure that freedom was theirs. As the ship made its way closer to the Council's stronghold, Kesh felt a wave of calm wash over her. This was their moment. She knew the risks, but she also knew they had no other choice. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity was going to lead the charge. The Orion's wing moved quietly through the star-filled void, its engines barely a whisper in the deep silence of space. Kesh stood at the command console, her fingers tracing over the holographic maps that flickered in front of her. She was focused, her mind sharp, her heart beating a little faster than usual. This was it, the final push. The Council's meeting was just ahead, and if they could pull this off, humanity would finally have a voice in the galaxy. Kale entered the bridge, his expression serious. He had always been a man of few words, but Kesh could tell that even he felt the weight of what they were about to do. The stakes were higher now than they had ever been. The Council was not just an enemy of humanity. They were the ultimate authority in the galaxy. Defying them was dangerous, but Kesh had no intention of backing down. "How are the preparations going?" Kesh asked, glancing up at him. "Everything's set," Kale replied. "The crew's ready, and the infiltration team is in position. We just need to get in and do this quickly. Once we broadcast that message, there's no turning back." Kesh nodded. She knew the risks. The Orion's wing wasn't a warship. It wasn't built for large-scale battles. They had a small crew, but they were well-trained and determined. The Council's outpost, where the meeting was scheduled to take place, was heavily guarded, and the galaxy's most powerful forces would be in attendance. The Council's leadership would be there, including the ruthless High Chancellor, who had personally orchestrated the ban on humanity's involvement in galactic warfare. But Kesh had one advantage the Council didn't: humanity's ability to unite. They had shown that before in small ways, through rescue missions, small victories, and rallying others to their cause. Now, it was time for something bigger. It was time to show the galaxy what humans could do when they had the chance. "We've been planning for months," Kesh said, her voice steady. "We know where the weak points are. We know the guards, the shifts, the layout. We can do this." Kale raised an eyebrow. "You really think the Council's going to let us get away with this?" Kesh's eyes narrowed. "I'm not just thinking about escaping. I'm thinking about making sure the whole galaxy sees what they've been hiding. Humanity has been banned, but we're going to show them why they were afraid of us. It's not just about freedom. It's about justice." The Orion's wing glided toward the meeting station. The station, a massive structure orbiting a barren moon, was a fortress. Shielded by layers of defense and surrounded by powerful warships, it looked impenetrable. But Kesh and her team had found their way in, through a hidden transport dock that was less guarded than the main entrances. They would land undetected and make their way to the conference room, where the Council's leaders would be discussing humanity's future. As the ship approached the station's outer defenses, Kesh took a deep breath. This was the moment. She turned to Kel, who stood ready by her side. "We go in quiet, gather the intel, and then we broadcast. No mistakes." Kale gave a nod, his face serious but resolute. "We've got this." The Orion's wing slipped into the docking bay with ease, its stealth systems keeping it hidden from the station's sensors. The crew disembarked quickly, moving in small groups to avoid detection. Kesh's heart pounded in her chest, but her focus never wavered. She had come too far to turn back now. They moved through the dark corridors of the station, their footsteps echoing softly on the metal floors. The atmosphere was tense, but every member of the team knew their role. They were here to send a message, and nothing would stop them from completing their mission. Kesh's team reached the central hub where the Council's meeting was about to take place. The room was large and surrounded by thick security. There was no turning back now. She whispered into her communicator, signaling her crew to take their positions. The door slid open, and Kesh entered the meeting room, her presence cutting through the tension in the air. The High Chancellor, along with several other council leaders, looked up in surprise. It was clear they hadn't expected anyone to breach the station, especially not a human. Kesh's voice was calm but unwavering as she spoke. "You've been hiding the truth for far too long. Humanity deserves to stand equal among the stars. We will no longer be ignored." She moved to the central control panel and began the transmission process. As the holographic screens lit up with the broadcast, the faces of the Council shifted from surprise to anger. The truth was being revealed. The truth of their manipulation, their suppression of humanity, and their unjust rule. As the message was broadcast across the galaxy, Kesh's voice echoed through the airwaves, reaching every corner of the known universe. "This is the truth. Humanity stands with the galaxy's oppressed, and we will not rest until every voice is heard." The Council's leaders scrambled to stop her, but it was too late. The broadcast had already reached its destination. The truth was out, and humanity had made its stand. But Kesh knew this was only the beginning. The Council would retaliate. They wouldn't let this go without a fight. But for the first time, humanity had a chance to be heard, and that was enough to ignite the spark of rebellion across the galaxy. Kesh stood in the heart of the Orion's wing, watching the stars through the observation window. The battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. The broadcast had done its job. Across the galaxy, humans were no longer just seen as outcasts. They were seen as a force to be reckoned with, a power that could not be ignored. The Council's leaders had been humiliated. The truth of their manipulation, their secret plans, and their unjust laws had been exposed to every corner of the galaxy. And while they scrambled to regain control, the message was clear. Humanity would not be silenced anymore. Kesh felt a sense of accomplishment, but it was tempered by the reality of what came next. The Council would retaliate. Their pride, their power, would not allow them to let this go without a fight. But Kesh was ready. She had seen what humanity was capable of. And now, with the truth on their side, they had a chance to bring real change to the galaxy. "Captain, we've got incoming ships." Kel's voice crackled over the comms, snapping Kesh out of her thoughts. "They're not friendly." Kesh's heart rate quickened. The Council's retaliation had begun sooner than expected. She knew they wouldn't waste time sending a message. The galaxy's most powerful fleet was on its way, and they were coming to put an end to this rebellion. "We'll fight," Kesh said with resolve, turning toward the crew. "We've already won the most important battle. Now we make sure the galaxy knows we won't back down." Kale and the rest of the crew moved quickly, preparing the ship for combat. The Orion's wing wasn't equipped for a full-scale battle, but Kesh had learned a lot over the past few months. She knew how to use the ship's speed, its stealth systems, and its maneuverability to her advantage. They didn't need to beat the Council's fleet. They just needed to survive long enough to make their message stick. As the enemy ships closed in, Kesh took her seat at the command console. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. This was the turning point. If they lost here, everything they had fought for could be wiped away in an instant. But Kesh wasn't afraid. She had faced tougher odds before. "We've got to buy time," Kesh said. "Focus on getting our allies to safety and sending the signal. We need to spread the word. Humanity is not going down without a fight." The Orion's wing shot forward, its engines roaring as it darted through space at incredible speed. The enemy ships fired upon them, but Kesh expertly piloted the ship, dodging their blasts with precision. The Council's fleet was vast, but it wasn't fast enough to catch them. "Kel, do you have a clean shot?" Kesh asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Not yet," Kel responded. "They're coming in from all directions. We need to make it to the asteroid field up ahead. It'll give us some cover." Kesh nodded. She trusted Kel's instincts, and the asteroid field was their best chance to even the odds. The Orion's wing veered toward the field, weaving between the giant rocks and debris. The enemy ships followed closely, but the narrow paths made it difficult for them to target the smaller, more agile ship. The chase was intense, but Kesh's focus never wavered. She could hear the hum of the ship's engines, feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was their moment to shine. This was humanity's chance to show the galaxy that they wouldn't be intimidated. With each passing second, the battle grew more intense. The enemy was relentless, but Kesh had learned something valuable in her time with the humans. They didn't give up. No matter how tough things got, they fought. They kept going. And that determination, that never-give-up attitude, was what gave Kesh the strength to keep pushing forward. "Captain," Cal's voice came through again. "We've got a clear path ahead. We can break through their defenses." "Do it," Kesh ordered, gripping the control panel. "Now's our chance." With a final burst of speed, the Orion's wing shot past the enemy fleet, narrowly avoiding their fire. They had broken through the blockade, and now it was time to send the message to the galaxy once and for all. Kesh activated the ship's transmitter, sending out a final broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. "This is humanity's call for justice," Kesh's voice echoed across the airwaves. "We will no longer be silenced. We will no longer be ignored. We stand with the oppressed, and we will fight for a galaxy where every voice is heard." The transmission ended, and Kesh let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. The Orion's wing had made it through. The galaxy had heard their message. But even as they soared into the unknown, Kesh knew that this was only the beginning. The Council would not give up easily. There would be more battles, more struggles. But humanity had taken its first step toward true freedom, and that was something no one could take away. Kesh turned to Kel, who was standing beside her, his face showing signs of exhaustion, but also pride. "We did it," he said. Kesh nodded. "This is just the beginning. The galaxy has heard humanity's voice, and now we're going to make sure they never forget it." With a smile, Kel took his seat, and together they set their course for the next challenge. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and humanity was ready to lead.